Welcome back. Oyebode joins us now. He's a professor of international law, University of Lagos, continuing the focus on the developments in Bakassi. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
You're welcome.
Well, it's interesting the way all of this is playing out. By the way, let's start off with this report as a sort of backgrounder, and then we'll take it from there.
It's been over 6 years since Nigeria formally handed over the tiny peninsula of Bakassi to Cameroon following the historic ICJ judgment. 10 years after the verdict and 6 years after that formal handover, the issue of Bakassi is now back again in the front burner. Less than 2 weeks ago, a group of Bakassi indigents floated a radio station where they declared independence for the people, citing the federal government's failure to resettle them after several years. That action has suddenly made Bakassi a hot topic in the country.
It's when you have made a promise to a set of people and you don't keep that promise, you push them to the wall. That is what it is, basically.
I do know that at the time...
Though she does not support the independence declaration, Florence Itagiwa, one of the leaders in Bakassi, says those pushing for independence may be doing so out of frustration with the federal government.
I don't really blame those boys that went to declare, because I personally have had to live with a lot of constraints. But right now as I speak, I'm pushed to the wall. You know, I'm very, very emotional about it, and I really don't care what happens again. All we want is that we want my people to be relocated and taken off the street.
Some members of the National Assembly waded into the issue recently, asking the federal government to petition the International Court of Justice to review its verdict, with claims it had till October this year to do so. But Mr. Femi Falana says it's an erroneous claim.
As far as international law is concerned, that case, as it were, can no longer be reopened.
He also says Nigeria has itself to blame over the issue, arguing that it did not take the case seriously.
Whereas Cameroon assembled 12 professors, 12 renowned professors of French, English, and Cameroonian nationalities. Nigeria had a good team, but for political reasons, some of the best lawyers in the team, Professors Ayo Ajomo and Iseju Asage, were dropped on the ground that they had Nadeko sympathies. So we didn't go with our first 11.
Whether the judgment can be reviewed or not is not really the primary concern of the Bakassi people, according to Ms. Itagiwa. All they want is to be resettled.
We want the federal government to resettle us. We do not want a situation where we do not want any conflict. We do not want a situation where you now send Nigeria to war with Cameroon.
And so the wait for the federal government continues over the issue of resettlement. But the longer that gets, the more frustrated the people of Bakassi are likely to get. The more frustrated they are, then the worse for everyone involved in this. DG Badimasi, Channels Television News.
Well, there you have it. Thank you very much indeed, Deji, with that report. But, Prof, looking at this matter, there are different shades of opinion about it. I mean, so many people are not aware of the details and what is possible from the point of law. In fact, some ask that, is it possible that this case be revisited to the extent that the ICJ ruling or the ICJ reverses itself?
Well, in law, we have a maxim, res judicata. Once a case has been decided, it's decided. You can revisit the case if you have new facts. What new facts are we going to plead before the ICJ for the ICJ to reconsider its decision? Well, I got an article from a colleague of mine, very respected Nigerian professor who is vacationing in America right now, Professor Oyebode. He sent me a piece on this issue last week, which I got published in This Day on Tuesday. And he believed that Nigerian international lawyers should organize a roundtable to look at the various ramifications of that judgment in order to mitigate our losses. Well, it's triable, it's plausible, there's nothing wrong in trying. there are different things and different options open to Nigeria. Nigeria could make an appeal to the United Nations, and I believe the Bakassi people have made an appeal to the UN, because there is a declaration on the rights of unrepresented peoples. So if the Bakassi people feel they've been shortchanged, they are perfectly in order to ask the UN to look at the matter. The other thing that Nigeria could do is to say the principle of consent, I won't say self-determination, but the inhabitants have a role to play, and I don't think they were factored into the whole situation. I'm aware that the Obong of Calabar was at The Hague, but then I was more of an observer than an actual participant. You know, it was Chief Abiola who used to say, you cannot shave a man's head in his absence. So I think the Bakassi people have been shortchanged.
Well, in all of this now, you just brought this perspective of the Obong of Calabar being at The Hague there. Was it a case between Nigeria versus Cameroon, and also we should also have added versus Cross River State?
No, Cross River State is not a person in international law.
Good.
The case was instituted by Cameroon against Nigeria. But I think Nigeria committed all manner of indiscretions. I think we had tactical blunders in approaching the case. Mr. Falano spoke about going with a second 11. I think we went with a third 11. You know, Chino Achebe said one of the problems with us as a people is poor leadership, that we always go to the world stage with our third 11. I'm not saying that we didn't have brilliant people on the team, but I'm not sure we exhausted the possibilities. When Cameroon went to the court in '94, the Nigerian embassy in The Hague ought to have informed the home government that the matter had been tabled. It was at that point in time that Nigeria ought to have taken a position, because, you see, we tied our hands behind our backs, because in 1965, Nigeria had made a declaration accepting the compulsory jurisdiction of the ICJ in all disputes. Cameroon had not done that. And the matter can't go before the ICJ except and unless and only to the extent that the parties had accepted the jurisdiction. Nothing stops a party like Nigeria that made a declaration accepting the jurisdiction to modify his declaration, saying that any dispute arising between neighbors and Nigeria, or even between Africans pertaining to Nigeria, would not be tenable before the court. The same thing that the US did in 1984 in respect of Nicaragua. Nicaragua took the matter to the court, but the US modified its declaration on the jurisdiction of the court by saying that it was not prepared to entertain the jurisdiction of the court in any matter coming out of the Western Hemisphere. That was clearly saying that the court should not meddle into the conflict between the US and Nicaragua. In the event, the court found for Nicaragua, but it could not enforce it. In 1960, there was a case also between India and Portugal. Portugal took India to the International Court of Justice, the right of passage over Indian territory case, the famous Goa case. Now, India did not accept the jurisdiction of the court. Portugal won in The Hague, but India overran Goa. And up to the present point in time, Goa is part and parcel of Indian territory. So if Nigeria had done the needful at the appropriate time, we would not be engaged in this debacle.
Wouldn't it have been, tantamount to burying our head in the sand? Assuming we had said that we had modified our, declaration on the treaty, wouldn't that have been running away from the problem and not addressing it headlong, as it were?
No, you see, Nigeria did not have a very strong case. And way back in 1972, Dr. Elias, who was then in the International Law Commission and became a judge of the World Court, had advised Nigeria that our case was 50-50. Okay? In fact, I remember that in 1980 or thereabout, the matter was brought to us in the department in the University of Lagos. And we advised that our case was rickety. Then our boss was Professor Ajoma, who was involved in this matter. But I believe it was Chief Akinjide, who was Attorney General for the government. He sought a second opinion from a Don, I believe in Cambridge. I don't know what they paid him, because we acted pro bono publico. We gave our opinion as patrons. We didn't charge any fees. I think they paid some humongous fees to get the same type of opinion that we had given them, that our case was not too good.
Wow.
So it's not that people are acting out of ignorance. But when Abacha was in power, people whispered to his ears that the matter was arguable. And they pressed on, and we lost, I understand, $300 million. We lost Bakassi, we lost money, we lost authority. Now we're back to where we started from. So if we learn from the Bakassi incident to do what we have to do and make sure you prepare very well, then you won't end up in this embarrassing situation.
Oh, well, now that the decision has been taken, what do you think can be done to salvage the situation? Because the people of Bakassi really do feel very much shortchanged. How can we, mitigate the losses that we have made so far?
Very good question. What I will think Nigeria can do is to, as much as possible, explore the diplomatic channel. Go back to the drawing board and negotiation with Cameroon. For what? Either to buy back the peninsula, which we had handed over.
Is it possible?
No, we can make an offer. If we give the Cameroonians an offer they can't refuse, it's not without precedent in history. Russia sold Alaska to America in the 19th century. So you can buy back. We accept our mistake and say, look, we are prepared to pay so much, and if the Cameroonians feel okay, they can sell back the Bakassi to us. Then secondly, we can now, in fact, denounce the Green Tree Agreement, because Cameroon is in what we call in international law manifest breach under Article 60 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, because Cameroon has not been upholding the Green Tree Agreement. The gendarmes have been terrorizing and harassing Nigerians in the Bakassi Peninsula who engage in fishing. There's a lot of fish resources in the waters of the peninsula. And so we can denounce that agreement and even say that the agreement, to all intents and purposes, has not taken off because it was not subjected to National Assembly for its approval.
Prof, is it that Article 60 of the Vienna Convention which you talked about previously?
No, 60 is in terms of going back to court for new facts. Okay. I'm talking of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, 1969. Okay. I'm not talking of the statute of the International Court of Justice. Yes. Now, I think you should know that my area of specialty is the law of treaties. Yeah. My PhD is on Nigerian treaty law and practice. So I specialize in this area. I'm aware that Cameroon had my doctoral thesis in this matter. Nigeria did not take a look at the only PhD written by Nigeria on the matter. So, well, there you are. I'm not trying to be a hero after the event, but again, you must put your best feet forward in this matters.
Well, Chamberlain, I was trying to look at another option. Apart from, I thought that we had two options.
I've not finished on that.
All right.
Now, the other option which Nigeria could explore is the military option. Yes, if Nigeria has the will, we prepare to fight, you recover lost ground and take over the place. But I'm aware that Cameroon has turned the peninsula into a fortress right now, and they are waiting for us, as it were. I don't think Nigeria has the will right now. Our generals are saying the military, they are overstretched. Boko Haram is harassing us elsewhere. We are going to Mali. We have unfinished business in Darfur. Somalia is urging Nigerians to come and help the AU team. So maybe that would not be an option. And don't forget, Cameroon has a defense pact with France. So behind Cameroon, you have France. Is Nigeria prepared to take on France if it wants to militarily recover the territory? You know, you have to go back into history. After the Marwa Declaration, which caused one of the reasons behind the overthrow of Gawan in 1975, Ahijo was making some noises about the peninsula. But Murtala Mohammed said if he made such noise again, he was going to march on Yaoundé. We had a strong leader in Murtala Mohammed, and that ended the claim of Cameroon over the peninsula. But in 1981, there was a skirmish between Nigerian army and the Cameroonian gendarme. We lost some of our soldiers. Shagari was president. Definitely, he didn't have the will to fight. So it's not a new thing, this imbroglio over Bakassi. But the way I see the country now, I don't think we're in the mood to fight. We have the Bola Ajibola committee trying to cut our losses, as my lady here said, because we lost. It was a fiasco, that loss at the ICJ. But if Nigeria is not prepared to fight, then we can continue to at least needle Cameroon, because Cameroon too has problems with the Anglophone Cameroonians who want a revisit of the plebiscite of 1961. They regretted their voting to be with Cameroon in 1961. And I'm aware that they are talking to the Bakassi people and even other members of the Niger Delta to set up a Republic of Ambazonia. Now, if they set up the Republic of Ambazonia, that will take the wind out of the sail of Nigeria, because the oil resources that keep this country going and the Niger Delta. So if Niger Delta goes away to join Southern Cameroon, Nigeria is in serious trouble. And don't forget, there are other areas